Just for the interpretation booth, I'm just going to give an introduction in Arabic, and then I will be switching back to English. So just bear with me for 2 seconds. السلام عليكم، مرحبا بكم في هذه الجلسة. أنا اسمي سمية مغنوج، محللة لسياسات التعليم في منظمة التعاون والتنمية الاقتصادية الOECD في باريس، ويشرفني تنشيط هذه الجلسة. وسيكون موضوع الجلسة هو ممارسات التعليم المبدعة من أجل تطوير الكفاءات العالمية عند التلاميذ. ويشرفني تقديم المتدخلين في هذه الجلسة، وهم لبنى المجذوب. ولبنى هي مدرسة من لبنان وعضو لمنظمة Teach for Lebanon، درس للبنان، ولها تجربة في تدريس اللاجئين السوريين في لبنان. أهلا لبنى. ومعنا أيضا سعاد النعيمي، وهي معلمة في مدرسة الإبداع في دبي، ولها تجربة أيضا في تدريب المعلمين مع وزارة التعليم، ونالت سعاد كثير من الجوائز على المستوى الوطني. أهلا سعاد. وأخيرا معنا فرانسيسكو سانابريا جيرا المعروف بباكو، وهو أسس مدرسة في مكسيكو تستعمل ممارسات نيورو ليرنينج لتطوير كفاءات التلاميذ. مرحبا باكو. والآن سأمر للغة الإنجليزية في للعرض. So I just said I was going to move to English, so that was the last thing that you have not probably missed. So when I was thinking about the session today, I'm not a teacher, but I was a student. And so I was starting thinking about about my teachers when I was a student. So this is my classroom when I was in grade 2 in the 1990s. And I was trying to think about what were the teaching practices that they were using and what type of competencies that they were trying to impart on me as a student. I remember very fondly all my teachers they made me who I am today. But I do not think that global competence was something that was at the forefront. I mean, even for us, it's still very new. So that was not the future that they were preparing me to. And that reflected in how I received teaching. My teaching was very passive. I was a recipient of teaching. I was learning what the teacher was telling me. And for those of you that are curious about where she is on that slide, that would be me at age 7. So that's a classroom, it's a stock photo. It's a classroom in the 50s in France. But I can assure you that my classroom, when I was in the 1990s in Morocco, in Rabat, Morocco, looked exactly like that. So there was not much changes. We were all facing the teacher, and we all had to keep our hands on the table and be very silent during the whole class. So that's not that far away. I mean, I am old, but not that old. So now, what is teaching looking like? And so I have like some photos from our panels. So this is Paco in his classroom in Aula, using, I assume, neural learning that he will tell us a little bit more about with his students. This is Suad. No, this is not Suad. This is Lubna. So yeah, I was going this side with her students. And Lubna has worked with refugee students of different age groups. And so you can see that a bit, kind of the different ages in the same classroom that she had. And these are Suad students that are using ICT. So it's a different way of interacting with learning in your classroom. And now I would like us all to just take 2 seconds, everyone, and think of the first word that comes to mind when you think about the main changes from when you were a student to now that you're teachers. Go. You have 2 seconds. Okay. You don't have to report it. Just keep that word in mind. I will just pick up on my panelists and ask them to share their words. And because I have the mic, I'll start first. So my word is smart dashboard. Lubna?
active learning.
Active learning. سؤال.
أقول إنه إحنا التعليم فعال الحين في هالوقت.
In Spanish, it's enganche. Maybe in English, it's like hook your students.
And I'll add another word because we had the same word in Arabic and in English. Students' agency would be my final word. And before going to the discussion, I will just present some facts from our research at the OECD to explain a bit why does it matter that teaching practices change to teach the new competences that we're trying to impart on our students, and what does the international evidence tell us about it? So first of all, when we talk about effective teaching at the OECD, we classify them in 4 big categories. The first one being clarity of instruction. So effective teaching means that you're giving the message very clearly to the student and you're making sure that the student has understood the concepts. The second one is classroom management. You need to make sure that the learning environment is positive and conducive to learning. Okay, I'm just gonna start looking for just to make sure that my clicker works. Do not worry. The third one is cognitive activation. It is about making sure that the student is part of the learning process, that they are able to elaborate on the knowledge, that they're able to apply it. So those are all the activities where the student is able to use the knowledge acquired and then apply it in an active way. And finally, it is about the enhanced learning activities. More and more, we are asking our students to interact with tools, so for instance, ICT, with their environment, and that's what we call enhanced activities. So for instance, as we said, with the example of Surad and her students using a computer to solve a problem. Today, we will be focusing on the 2 last ones. Of course, clarity of instruction and classroom management are also important, but we're focusing on these 2 because when we're talking about global competence, those are the 2 that matter the most. I will now just explain a little bit about some of the examples of practices that we classify in each. So for instance, when we talk about cognitive activation, we talk about problem solving, collaborative problem solving. We talk about multi-stage task where you're guiding your students to go from a task to another, building on their already acquired competencies from previous tasks. It is also about thinking critically, guiding your students to question the information that they receive. It is, when we talk about enhanced activities, I mentioned ICT, there's also the use of long projects. So asking your students to work a little bit more autonomously through time and find their own way through a problem. The 2 types of activities are related. What we know is cognitive activation are more used now in the classroom, while enhanced activities are still being, it's more touch and go, and it depends on which country and which environment and the socioeconomic background often of the school. And some of the reasons are both that enhanced activities require a level of skills from the teacher, for instance, digital literacy, that are currently not always taught in professional development learning or in initial teacher education. And it also requires a certain level, for instance, of digital literacy from the student that is not always available. It also requires a certain level of autonomy from the student. For instance, if you're doing a long-time project, that is not always there. So why does it matter? Why is it important to use cognitive activation activities when you're teaching? So this graph, don't get scared. I know there's a lot of points there, but the main message, this is from our survey PISA, which is a survey of 15-year-olds where we test them in mathematics, in reading and science. And we looked at how do students that received cognitive activation in their studies do in the test compared to students that did not. And we see actually the y-axis is the probability of success if you have received cognitive activation, and we see that it is positive. What is even more interesting is actually in the x-axis is actually the difficulty of the item that you're solving. And what is very interesting is that you're actually the probability of success is even higher for items that are difficult. So it's helping your students solve those higher order problems that require a little bit more thinking. And it seems self-evident. Like if you're using critical thinking, you'll be able to solve more items than if you're not, that are more difficult. It also has an impact on soft skills. So it helps, from research from the UK, we know that cognitive activation helps reduce anxiety towards math problems, for instance, and build students' confidence. Because they build that agency. They feel more empowered, more like in control of they're learning. The evidence in terms of use of some of the enhanced activities, in particular when we look at ICT, is a little bit more mitigated. So this is the frequency of use of ICT and the results in PISA again. And we see that certain use of ICT has a positive impact, but after a certain threshold, if you use it too much, that impact on your student learning decreases. And there's different hypotheses for what it could be. Again, this is frequency. It is not about the quality or how it is integrated in a teacher's teaching, and we'll come back to that in our panel discussion. And finally, I will finish a bit about how does the UAE compare to other countries. So this is a different survey that we have, which is a survey of teaching practices called TALIS. And we ask teachers about the frequency of use of different teaching practices. And we see that actually in the UAE, teachers in the UAE report a higher use of cognitive activation and enhanced activities than in most OECD countries. It's actually one of the highest use in the survey. And in some, it's actually, the difference is quite wide if you look at use of group activities and ICT, which is very positive. Interestingly, when we look at the impact it has on student learning, we know that in the OECD countries, it has quite a big impact. So if you're using cognitive activation, for instance, it's a 19-point difference in the test than if you're not, which is about half a year of studying difference. In the UAE, it is not that significant. So it could be because all of you are using it, so we don't see anything in the data because all of you are using it. But it also could be a question about when that evidence came about in 2012, it was maybe about also the quality of the activities that were used. So this is going to be a question that we will be talking about. And so on that, I will turn now to my panel. And because the last slide was about the UAE, I think it's only normal to start with Suad. And my question to you, Suad, is, first of all, what do you think of this evidence? And can you tell us a little bit about kind of the reforms and policies that you are taking in the UAE to actually use cognitive activation and enhance activities?
أولاً حبيت أقول كل عام وكل معلم بخير أبتديها، وأهني شعب الإمارات لوصول للفضاء، وهذا يعكس مدى التقدم اللي هو حاز فيه من سنة 2012 إلى الحين. طبعاً نحن حدث عندنا في دولة الإمارات تغيير جذري في التعليم، حيث أن بدأت من بعد التجارب انطلقت المدرسة الإماراتية. هذه المدرسة الإماراتية طلعت من بعد تجارب علمية وأسس علمية على أساس أن يكون تعليم يساهم تعليم مستدام، بحيث أن يكون محقق من كل الجوانب. المناهج تغيرت عندنا فلذلك أصبح تغيير عندنا في التعليم. كذلك أصبح الوعي أكثر بالتعليم بصورة على مدى الحياة. عندنا كذلك الابتكارات ودخولها في التعليم، كذلك عندنا التدريب المستمر للمعلم. هذا كله عكس التعليم في دولة الإمارات منذ بداية انطلاق الدولة المدرسة الإماراتية. فلذلك أنا أشوف أن هذا المؤشر بدأ الحمد لله ينعكس ويكون بشكل وايد أعلى من هذا الموجود.
And the word you used at the start of the conversation was active learning students agency. Could you tell us more about why you chose this word as representative for what you see as the changes in teaching practices?
استخدمت كلمة فعال لأن دائما المعلم داخل الغرفة الصفية عنده عدة أنشطة. تبدأ أول شيء بالتخطيط على أساس أنه يكون فعال، بحيث أنه يكون قادر على أنه يستثمر كل وقت الحصة الدراسية، مثلا من حيث استخدام الاستراتيجيات المنوعة، بحيث أنه يستخدم يراعي الفروق الفردية، يستخدم أساليب التعلم المتنوعة، كذلك اللعب والمرح والاستخدام الألعاب التعليمية. هذه جميع هذه الأشياء ساعد على أن يكون فعال. ودائما نحن نطرق نكون إن 80 دائما في الغرفة الصفية يكون 80% على الطالب و20% على المعلم، فهو دوره كموجه لتلقي المعلومات. لذلك أنا أقول إنه هو فعال يكون من داخل الحصة الدرسية.
Thank you, Suan. Paco, I'll turn to you now because still in the same idea, you have used a particular way to activate student learning in the school. So could you tell us a little bit more about the model that you try to embed and some of the practices that you use in Aula?
Okay, thank you very much. In Aula, the school I created, we use a model based on neuroscience. We teach with a friendly way to the brain. We use tools that correspond that how the brain learns naturally. We use, our model is based on 7 E's. In Spanish, emoción, emotion. Experiencias, experiences. Explicación, explanation. Ejemplo, example. Entrenamiento, training. Y la sexta, and the sixth, evaluación, evaluation. We have an other E, and do you remember my first word is enganche. Enganche, it's so important. Hook. This E, enganche, which is transversal in all the process from the start to the end. And maybe I can explain a little about this is. Okay, in emotion, we drill the brain in 3 ways: activation, meditation, and attention. Experiences activate previous knowledge in our students. What my students already know, it's so important. Explanation, the teacher is not the protagonist to the process. I only be a guide to the process to learn, and we co-create the knowledge with my students through the investigation. In example, with the new knowledge in my students, they create the examples. They relate the knowledge with the life. In entrenamiento, training, is a process to solidifying the knowledge, and we practice the new knowledge because we need that our students solidifying this knowledge. In evaluation, we close every class verifying if the knowledge was learned. And the other E, and for me, is really magical E, enganche, motivate all the time my students, hook in all the process. My students need feel my connection with them.
You said that the first the first A is emotion, so emotion. Could you tell us a little bit an example of an activity that you do in the class to make sure that you're starting with the emotions? What does it mean to start with the emotions?
You want one example?
One example.
Okay, I love the activities to meditation. I love that my students close their eyes and think about how do they feel, if they feel good or more or less or bad, and say there, no matter what, how do you feel, the important is that you can make a good process to learn with your emotions.
I will turn now to Lubna. And Lubna, you have quite a unique experience for many teachers. You worked with refugees. You worked also in a very heterogeneous classes and also with the different age groups. Could you tell us a little bit about your experience to use some of those teaching practices that we've been talking about, so cognitive activation, enhanced activities, within that context?
Okay. Thank you first, Sumaya, for this introduction. So basically, in my opinion, there's no one perfect strategy or a way that a teacher should follow in a classroom. To me, the content is the same, whether you're teaching like Arabic, biology, chemistry, English. What differs is the teacher and the students. And you want to like use the tools and the strategies where you can reach all your students. So basically what I believe in is that students cannot fit in with a teacher, but it's the opposite. It's the teacher to fit in with the needs of the students, the diversity in the classroom, in order for him to be able to reach them all and maximize the learning activity. So starting from you've said, I've taught like KG students, 5 years old. I've taught grade 9, grade 10, different cultures, refugee students. What I used to use in my classroom was learning through play strategy, especially with my little kids, because this strategy makes them engage with me and motivated, and they are like eager to come to school every day and learn new things through playing and engaging with their friends. The second strategy I used to use were like is different strategies, but going from like metacognitive strategies in classroom, which means that I want my students to learn to think about their own learning and their own thinking. And also I've used peer learning and collaborative learning in the classroom. I just want to share one example of a challenge that I faced in my, like with my refugee students. I will say it in Arabic just to make sure that the meaning reach. So لما كنت أعلم اللاجئين هن كانوا معودين على طريقة التعليم اللي هن كانوا بيتبعوها اللي هي الحفظ. فكان عنا صف علوم، فأنا قلت لهم إنه هذا درس العلوم نحن بدنا ندرسه، وبنجي بكرة دارسين الدرس. ويعني أنا فكرت إنه نحن رح ندرس نفهم الدرس. فاجوا تاني نهار تلاميذي إنه مس نحن ما رح نعمل نسخ. فأنا إنه نحن بنعمل نسخ بالعلوم. فهون أنا فهمت إنه هن عم يتبعوا طريقة الحفظ بالتعلم، مش طريقة الكريتيكال ثينكينج نفهم أكتر. فهون جربت استعمل معهم طريقة إنه التعلم like metacognitive strategies، كيف هن بيقدروا to use critical thinking in classroom، مش تعلم نحفظ.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's very interesting. I have one last question to all of you. So whoever wants to talk is more than happy. It's about the use of ICT. What is your experience in using ICT in the classroom? And then are there any challenges? What are the challenges and opportunities of using ICT, both in your teaching, but also in your students' learning activities? Whoever wants to talk first can go.
Okay.
بالنسبة للتكنولوجيا التعليمية احنا عندنا يعني نحب وايد نستخدمها داخل، لأن الحين الدول المعاصرة كانت تستخدمها، فعندنا برامج عديدة وايد. فبتكلم أول من ناحية الحصة الدرسية، ممكن احنا نستخدم الألعاب التعليمية الإلكترونية، بحيث أن نوع من أنواع المدخل. يعني أنا أتكلم على أساس أني أنا معلمة حلقة أولى، فنستخدم مثلا الآيباد، الألعاب الإلكترونية كنوع من أنواع التهيئة، كنوع من الرسم، يعني يضيف نوع من أنواع المتعة. إحنا ما نقول إنه نحن نستخدمه على طول الوقت، لكن عندنا مثلا مدة معينة نستخدمها كإضافة نوع من أنواع المرح والمتعة عند الطالب. لكن بعد مع التقدم في الأعمار والمراحل، عندنا التعلم الذكي، ننزل فيه برامج فيديوهات مثلا تعلمية، ننزل فيه عندنا الامتحانات وأوراق العمل، في صوت تواصل من بيننا في بوابة التعلم الذكي. كل طالب عندنا عنده باسورد وعنده إيميل يدخل، نحن نتكلم من خلال يعني معه، نطرش كل الأوراق الخاصة بالمادة، يتعلم يوصل لدرجاته. كذلك أيضا نوصل للخطة الأسبوعية، نستخدم هالأشياء كلها في التكنولوجيا في التعليم. حصولهم على الدرجات، مثلا المكافآت اللي نقولها على مثلا تلميذ يوصل عن طريق البرنامج اللي عندنا متواصل من انشاته وزارة التربية والتعليم. فالحين نستخدمه يعني بمنظور معين، يمكن انه يعصر التكنولوجيا الموجودة وحب الاستخدام للتكنولوجيا، لأن الحين الأطفال والطلبة الناس كلها تستخدم التكنولوجيا أساسا، خصوصا الآيفون ولا الأشياء يعني.
So, as Suad said, it's very prominent to have ICT in the classrooms in the UAE. Can you quickly, maybe Lubna and Paco, if there's anything like, what are the differences from what Lubna says, from what Suad said, compared to your experience, very quickly, and then we will move to questions.
To me, it's a different experience, because teaching in refugee schools is very hard regarding ICT, because of lack of resources, because students are coming from very hard cultures, from a war background. So ICT and technology wasn't available in my classroom. I tried to use some technology tools, for example, like to address different ways of expressing the lesson, like using videos, using media, using like these various tools to engage students. So basically, I used ICT in a limited way, just to engage students and to let them think that there's other ways we can teach and get the objectives, not just using books and blackboards.
Because for you, it is also an introduction to ICT, because all the students do not have access to ICT at home or in the background. So it is also about digital literacy, not simply using ICT to further learning. That is very interesting. Just in case of time, Paco, do you have something to share on ICT?
Okay, we use the STEAM methodology, but only to improve the technological skills, not to replace the way to teach. I think that the cognitive skills develop better with the socialization, one-to-one.
Okay, thank you. And then now we will open the floor very briefly, unfortunately, to the audience. If you have any questions, there will be mics circulating. There's a question in the back.
You mentioned teaching in a brain-friendly way. Can you give us examples or stuff you've done in your classroom?
Yes, of course. I don't know if it's possible that Maite help me. I want to explain in Spanish this part, but Maite, maybe we can help us. Thank you, Maite. El cerebro necesita emocionarse para aprender. The brain needs emotions to learn. Cuando nosotros pensamos en aprendizajes significativos,
When we think about learning that is significant,
es porque hubo detrás una emoción que detonó y activó al cerebro para poder aprender.
it's because there was an emotion that made the brain to start thinking and to be ready to learn.
Si alguna de ustedes es madre, podrá recordar exactamente cuando nació su hijo.
If any of you are a mother, maybe you remember when your child was born.
Eso sucede porque en ese preciso momento estuvo cargado de emociones el proceso.
And you do that because that precise moment was full of emotion.
Emociono a mis estudiantes para que su cerebro esté activo y poder aprender.
So he wants to make his students sensitive of that moment so that he can bring up their emotions and be ready to learn.
Si yo emociono el cerebro de forma positiva, mis estudiantes aprenden.
If I am emotionating or if I am working with the brain in a positive way, the students are learning.
And this is a friendly way to learn.
And that's a friendly, oh, you said it in English,
Thank you.
sorry.
I think we're running out of time, but if there's like one small question left, we can probably answer it. If not, we'll be around, so feel free to grab any of us and continue the discussion. Oh, there's one last question. Can we? Maybe?
Assume you are a student.
Sorry, I can hear you.
ممكن عفوا تعطينا مثال اكزامبل يعني احنا طلاب وانت مدرس اللي بتعمله. Give us an example. مثال يعني كيف بتدرس انت في طلابك؟ افترضنا احنا طلاب وانت مدرس.
Okay, we have a positive psychology program, PERMA, P-E-R-M-A. P, positive emotions. E, engagement. R, relationships. M, meaning. And A, achieve. Every day, my students practice 20 minutes in these elements. Monday, P, positive emotions. Tuesday, E, engagement. So all the time we are produce a good emotions in the morning. They relax, they active, they focus their brain, and then it's time to learn.
So thank you very much. Thank you to everyone on the panel, and thank you to the audience for attending this session, and thank you for interpretation as well.
Thank you, Maite. Thank you, everybody.